where we review all the best sports clips from around the country. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of over there? Because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. They don't even read the comments. But I do. I read every single comment because I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I said is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we genuinely all feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd, and he's interviewing Nick Wright. So we'll kind of see what type of nonsense Nick has to say with Colin. The only thing is with these interviews is Colin never pushes back. He always just like gives the people who he's interviewing just like platforms, a platform just to kind of share their opinion. So we don't ever really get like actual debate or back and forth in these types of things, but it is always interesting. Nick kind of usually brings a little bit of extra energy for these interviews. I think he likes to impress Colin. I think, he kind of sees Colin as his daddy. So let's get into it.
Live here. First things first. Let's go to Nick Wright. So
it's unbelievable.
By the way,
I don't know. You scotch the whole herd hierarchy rather than put the Chiefs ahead of the Bills for a single week. You just said screw it. I mean, it's a staple of the show. Every damn Tuesday, you finally have no choice but to put Kansas City ahead of Buffalo, and you said, you know what? Burn the segment. Not even going to do it, then suffer that indignity. Unbelievable. Hi, Colin.
Well, we only have 4 teams left, so it's not much of a hierarchy.
Well, rank them.
But it's funny, and it's a good point. It's ironic. It's coincidental, but it's still a great point. No, I want to, I'm going to go to the Josh Allen thing. And I said this. They may be great next year. Doesn't mean they're going to win it. Those Buffalo teams for years that didn't win, those were great teams. Great coach, great. But I said, here's the thing about Josh Allen. They're going to be viable for this reason. Think about how great Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson is. And I forget where I put the number, but Josh Allen has scored like 73 more touchdowns than Lamar Jackson the last 4 years. Wouldn't you at least acknowledge, they may not win a Super Bowl, but Buffalo, as long as Josh Allen's in his 20s and early 30s, they're not going anywhere. Is that fair?
Well, not going anywhere. I guess that depends on your tone of voice. Like, they're not going anywhere, or this Bills team, they're not going anywhere. I guess it could be a bit of both. Here's the thing, Colin, and this is, as someone who has, obviously, because I'm a Chiefs guy, been rooting for my hometown team in the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years against the Bills and Josh Allen. The version of Josh Allen that showed up to the game Sunday was the least scary. And I think the Bills, because they are scared of Josh's turnovers, made him less of a scary player to play.
That's such nonsense, okay? I reject that notion. Josh Allen, what he did on Sunday was incredibly scary because he showed how elite and deadly he is. Enough with this, again, or I guess we're just going to have to keep talking about this until, I guess, this weekend's games. But enough with this nonsense that they were trying to contain Josh Allen's turnovers and this or that. He was throwing the ball downfield, doing everything he could, lateral passes, scrambling, running, making these amazing throws that were either caught or just straight up dropped by his receivers. So this idea that the Bills staff was just so afraid that that they were trying to contain him it's just not accurate. If that was the case, then what was he throwing these 60+ yard bombs for? Like that doesn't even it literally makes no sense. I mean, they're acting like they were treating him like he's like some backup quarterback, and it's just not true. I mean, it's really not. Or like what they were doing with Justin Fields in the middle of the season. I mean, so I just don't know what they're really talking about. And I get it. He had a bunch of those throws behind the line of scrimmage because that was play calling and what the game kind of developed into. But that wasn't to say that Josh Allen wasn't pushing the ball down the field. I mean, like, it just, I just reject that notion. And this idea that, that Nick in, his current state or whatever wasn't afraid of Josh Allen, what he was doing on Sunday. Again, I could say that I could understand the argument that you're not afraid of the Bills in that, the way how it's constructed, that makes sense to me, right? Because the Bills are so heavily on Josh Allen that it's like, all right, like, he can't just win these games himself. So I can get that argument. But Josh Allen himself, as the individual, as the quarterback, I just call BS. He is an elite quarterback, scary quarterback, because he can do anything.
Play. Since Joe Brady took over, Josh Allen was under 250 yards passing in every game but one. The one game he had big passing numbers post Joe Brady was the Dolphins game, the end of the regular season, when he had 3 turnovers. And I think the best thing the Bills have going for them is their quarterback. And they appeared to me to be afraid of their quarterback making the big mistake, so they asked him, check it down, run the ball, take the easy completion. But when you ask someone to do something that is against their nature, and that is against Josh Allen's nature, it is very hard to do that for 3.5 hours. So what we saw on Sunday was Josh Allen play exactly the way they wanted him to play for 3 quarters. And then when, despite that, they were trailing, what did we see on the final drive? The best and the worst. First play of the final drive, he throws a 65-yard pass on a rope in cold weather, outdoors. And, I mean, it would have been a tough catch because any 65-yard pass is tough to catch, but it was a perfect pass. So that's the best. But then what else did we see that drive? He fumbles the game away, fumbles their season away if it's scooped up the way it should have been.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the drive, 2nd and 9, has Stephon Diggs move the chains, keep bleeding the clock. He has to go for the kill shot. 3rd and 9, he goes for the kill shot. So I think if you're Buffalo, you can't coach the Allen out of Allen. You just have to somehow find a way to mitigate the mistakes.
Yeah.
Because to play a game against the Bills where they don't have a single 20-yard play, where Josh completes 16 passes.
Again, he would have had well over 200-plus yards, 250-plus yards if they just caught one of his 60-yard bombs. So, and that has nothing to do with Josh Allen. That's number one. Number two, this has been my biggest argument with regards to Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, for that matter. Because Nick Wright just said, you can't coach, Josh, something that's essentially inherent to Josh Allen is you can't, like, coach that out of him. And this is exactly what Andy Reid did for Patrick Mahomes, okay? There was plenty of moments that Patrick Mahomes was kind of spiraling or starting to get out of control. I forget a couple years ago when it was exactly, what season that was exactly. He went on this whole run of throwing all these interceptions, and it was kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? And, with the help and guidance of the genius Andy Reid, he was able to contain that. He was able to help guide Patrick Mahomes into greatness. I mean, it's just indisputable. Patrick Mahomes, if he was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, do we really think that he would just be this elite quarterback right now? He would be winning all these Super Bowls? I don't think so, okay? I do not think so. And if you do think that, then what good is Andy Reid? Why have a good head coach? Why have Travis Kelce? Why have Tyreek Hill? Why have any of these people? You just wouldn't need it. Any quarterback who you drafted, just like, whatever. Patrick Mahomes could have been drafted by the Panthers. Whatever. Multiple Super Bowls. We know it doesn't work like that. Do we really think if Tom Brady was drafted by the Falcons, he'd have 3, 4, 5, 6 Super Bowls? I do not think so. And I know you don't think so either. So it's just really kind of absurd. So I think this is the gift that Patrick Mahomes has probably been given more than anything, more than the Travis Kelce, more than a Tyreek Hill, more than some of these great weapons that he had in the beginning. Josh Allen doesn't even have a top 5 coach in his entire career, let alone in this one season, relative to Patrick Mahomes, who has the elite head coach the one of the greatest head coaches of all time, the greatest tight end of all time. Like and Tyreek Hill might well be one of the greatest wide receivers, definitely like one of the fastest wide receivers we've ever seen in the history of the NFL. And Josh Allen doesn't even have like a top 5 offensive weapon or a top 5 offensive coach in his entire career for just one season. And don't tell me Diggs. I mean, get out of here with that. I mean, seriously, Diggs' career has been so unsustainable, has not been sustained at all. Diggs has had moments of greatness, don't get me wrong, but again, let's like stop pretending like he's just this bona fide number one. He's a number one receiver, but not in the league, not in the NFL. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, these were bona fide number ones in the NFL and potentially of all time. So you have to understand that. And again, I just don't understand why a lot of people are refusing to make these acknowledgments. Because if that was the case, like I said, you wouldn't need coaching. You wouldn't need, we would never have these statements of, oh, this coach really turned around the franchise, or, oh, this coach really turned around so-and-so's career, or, wow, they really bought the best out of him. This coach made this player that, like we wouldn't have those statements. And we know that's true. Would Patrick Mahomes be great whether or not Andy Reid was his coach? Yes, I believe that. Do I believe that Patrick Mahomes would be as successful as he is? No, I do not. There's just no reason to believe that, because that's just never been the case in sports.
Passes behind the line of scrimmage and 2 passes more than 5 yards downfield, that's not a scary Bills team. It just isn't.
The Ravens are interesting, though, because and I was saying this earlier about the Harbaughs. Jim Harbaugh is really not your classic offensive coach. You can't pigeonhole him. Both the Niners and Michigan were led by their defense. Michigan never threw the ball down the field. And John Harbaugh's really his history, he started an offense to special teams. His Flacco team was a top 10 offense. It was a Flacco hot streak, and this team's got a great defense, but it's his ability to embrace Lamar and keep adding elements to it that has made it great. Aren't you, whereas Sean McDermott is the classic defensive purist, and Andy Reid has an edge. Harbaugh's hard to pigeonhole. They do offense. They do clever. Baltimore is, to me, less predictable, harder to pigeonhole. Harbaugh's harder to label. To me, if I was a Chiefs fan, I would be worried about Baltimore. They just do a lot well, and they're kind of unpredictable due to Lamar.
So, listen, Baltimore, going into the year, this was odd because I doubted Baltimore. Going into the year, the AFC's so deep, I didn't know about the Burrow injury. I thought the Ravens were going to miss the playoffs. So I was dead wrong on Baltimore. But the same show that I said I thought they were going to miss the playoffs, I also said of all the teams in the AFC, they are the one I would least like to play in the postseason. Because Lamar's best is so dynamic and
this is where Nick Wright is just so inconsistent, because just last week he said, I trust CJ Stroud more than I trust Lamar Jackson in the postseason. And for weeks he was blasting Lamar Jackson for essentially being terrible in the playoffs and unable to come up big in these moments. And again, he literally picked the Houston Texans to win by like 10 plus points. Like he had them like winning convincingly. Obviously, at this point, we know that's how that worked out. So the fact that he's now saying, "Oh, they're the scariest" and this or that, it's just like I understand your opinions evolve, right? I mean, that makes sense. If your opinions aren't evolving, then you either just really know the answers to everything, or I don't know what to tell you. But so again, like. This is where these little things kind of drive me nuts, honestly, and I don't know how you all feel about it, but he literally just said last week that he doesn't trust Lamar Jackson in the playoffs and that he trusts CJ Stroud more than him, and made the bold statement that the Houston Texans are going to beat the Baltimore Ravens convincingly. And now he's saying, no, I've always said that the Lamar Jackson is, the scariest player in the Ravens, and they're the ones who I don't want to face in the playoffs. Like, that inconsistency makes just I don't get it.
So unique that if he is playing his A-plus level, they do seem almost unbeatable. And then you add to it what I didn't know they were going to have is scoring-wise the best defense in football. They are a great team. They had 3 losses, you throw out the final week of the year. They had 3 losses all season, and they led at the 2-minute warning at in all three of those losses. I watch all your media, Colin. I know you don't believe in the Chiefs still. You think the Ravens can, walk all over them, blow them out. I get that. I'm surprised you don't, in, almost a Tom Brady context, bring up this stat. I don't hear anyone mention it. Patrick Mahomes is 0-2 in the playoffs against Brady. He's 13-1 in every other playoff game.
Yeah.
And the one loss was in overtime. So I don't think anyone in any building deserves to be 3.5-point favorites over a healthy playoff Mahomes.
Yeah.
Last year, we saw him in the postseason on one leg be able to score 38 in the Super Bowl. But I have a healthy respect for Baltimore. And they have earned every step of this. Unlike Buffalo, which I felt like a lot of it was the media wish casting what they could be, the Ravens have walked the walk all year in all three phases of the game, and they are more than a worthy competitor. And now I'll add this, Colin. Given how Dallas once again flamed out in the playoffs, it feels to me, and we don't always get this, that we truly did get the four best teams in the league start to finish as our Final Four.
Yeah.
San Francisco, Detroit, Baltimore, Kansas City. That's the right Final Four.
So I was saying this during my preamble.
He's like acting like it's insulting for the Ravens to be favored at home when they're the number 1 seed, with Lamar Jackson being the MVP and them completely blowing out the Houston Texans, while the Chiefs struggled to beat the Bills, who, according to Nick Wright, are not good at all and not scary at all, and Josh Allen's not that good, and that the coaches don't know what they're doing, and yet they just snuck on by with that victory. I mean, just one caught ball, and the Bills win that game. So, again, that game was way more about the Bills losing that game than the Chiefs winning that game. And so I don't know what he's talking about. So it's like, I don't get this argument here. Like, what are you expecting? Are you expecting the Chiefs to be favored going into the Ravens right now? Like, there's no reason to believe that. Just because Patrick Mahomes is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever and may indeed become the greatest quarterback ever doesn't mean that you're just given these benefits, these favors, again, it doesn't make sense, because you know why? Last time I checked, it's not one-on-one football. It's not just Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson just running around the field together. I mean, that would be pretty weird looking, okay? It's a whole team. It's from start to finish, from top to bottom. So this, like, it's like he gets like insulted by these things, and it's like, it just doesn't add up to me. Something just feels weird about it.
Amble to you is that you and I have been on the same kind of feeling with Brock Purdy. Players obviously, Drew Brees fell to the second round. But, I mean, if you look at Dak falling to the fourth round or Kirk Cousins, very similar players, there's a reason they fell to the fourth round. One wasn't an accurate thrower. One wasn't a big, strong power thrower and an athlete. Is that Brock Purdy is the last guy taken in the draft. Not everybody's a dummy in the league. And it is interesting. I had said earlier today, Mahomes loses, Tyreek Hill wins a Super Bowl. Lamar's on a third-string running back without his Hall of Fame tight end AFC championship. Josh Allen, pre-Stephon Diggs, was just fine. Brock Purdy deals with a drizzling rain and no Debo, and they were outplayed by Green Bay. Do you feel justified? I don't think they're going to beat Detroit without Debo.
Oh,
I don't.
wow.
I don't. Do you feel a little justified on Brock Purdy? I'm mystified by smart people who are struggling to contextualize the Brock Purdy debate. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not mystified by it. I just think folks are more sensitive to criticism than you or I. And it is the easy thing to do is say, look at his record. Look at his numbers. What more do you want from him? I think the more nuanced point is this. What is your opinion of Brock Purdy? And how much of that is informed just by the numbers, and how much of it is informed by the fact that these games are on television and that we are able to watch it, and that we watch football for 5 months every Sunday. We watch all these games, and I give Brock credit. The end of the game, he came through. I didn't think he would. I didn't think he could, and he did it.
Yep.
But for 3 of the 3 hours and 15 minutes that game was on, he was the worst player on the field. right? We had a debate about a player. Is he the league's MVP? When deep down, everyone knew not only was he not his team's MVP, I think right now, deep down, inside and outside the locker room, if you were asked, what is the Niners' biggest weakness? Not the MVP of the league, the weakness of the team, they would say the quarterback. And
so I actually had this conversation with someone in the comments about Brock Purdy. I've been called like a Brock Purdy hater, but then also kind of fair and all of this. So I want to address this real fast, and I'll be addressing this in other videos as well, of course, as we continue to talk about Purdy. I think in my mind, Brock Purdy is unquestionably the weak link for the 49ers. And that's okay. That's not a slight at him. That's not saying he's trash. That's not saying he's garbage. It's the reality because he's so young and he's surrounded by seasoned vets that are elite, that are in their prime. Okay? Because a lot of times you get some of these situations where you get to play with these like really great players, but like they're starting to get older, they're done, they're near the end, and so it's different. He's playing right now with these athletes, these players that are balling out elite. He's not at that level. Maybe one day, let's just say one day he can get there. Let's say we are going to say that Brock Purdy is elite and can surpass, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Let's just say that that's the reality of the situation. That's fine, okay? I'm not saying that will happen or it won't happen. But what I am saying is today, he is not that, okay? Today, it's not even close. His numbers, his stats, they are inflated because of the team around him. It's just undeniable because like I keep saying, how could they not be with those players around him? Then are we just saying that Debo's not that special? Christian McCaffrey's not that special? Ayuk is not that special? What, then what are we saying? Are we saying that Shanahan's just not a great offensive genius? I know obviously he has his issues, especially when coming from behind and stuff like that. But, it's like, so what are we saying? And also, again, that schedule that they played, look at the games that they won and look at the games that they ran up the score against the Cowboys and the Eagles and, just other bad teams that you're just like, those teams aren't special. But then again, he goes up against the Packers and that didn't look good. He went up against the Ravens. That didn't look good. A tougher D like the Browns, and that didn't look good. So, and again, it's not to say that Brock Purdy has to be perfect every single game. And if he's not, then, he's just a scrub. Like, that's not what I'm saying either. But I think with Purdy, we're just jumping. Like, I think a lot of people just want Purdy to be him so badly that they're refusing to let things bake. Tom Brady was not elite in his first few years of playing, right? I don't even know if you would even consider Tom Brady elite when he like won his first Super Bowl, right? Like it's something like those first few Super Bowls, like it's really seen that like he didn't really win them, that it was more defense that really won them. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but when you look at his numbers and you look at his stats, it's like hardly like the most impressive thing. And then, at that time, Bill Belichick was getting way more recognition probably than Brady. But again, it's hard to remember. That was a very long time ago. But so this idea, people, and I think what Nick said was correct there, where he said, people are more sensitive to criticism. And I agree, because that's what it feels like. That's really what it does. Like, people are very insulted if you criticize Purdy or if you point out any flaws in Purdy. And again, that's going to happen because he's so young and he's still learning. Like, what did he do? He admitted that when he had the bye, that he was just watching like old playoff footage of like Patrick Mahomes and stuff. Okay? That's not what someone does when they're already elite. And Patrick Mahomes isn't watching footage of Brock Purdy or Josh Allen in the playoffs, right? Not even of Tom Brady in the playoffs. Tom Brady's not watching footage of, Peyton Manning in the playoffs. So what Brock Purdy's doing is actually really smart. He's learning from the greats. They're learning from the people that are ahead of him, that are doing the things that he wants to do. So it's actually smart for him to do those things. But at the same time, it's admitting that he's not that guy yet. And again, it remains to be seen if he will be that guy. But again, my biggest argument is that he's just not that guy right now. And that's okay. We don't have to be so sensitive about it. It's okay. It'll be okay. And I guarantee you, if you ask him, is he the, Has he been winning those games, or has his team been winning those games? He would admit that the team is winning those games. He knows. You can see it in his face. He knows that he is not the one leading that offense to victory there. He knows it's going through Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo. Like he knows that. He knows the genius of Shanahan. You know, he's not an idiot. He seems like he's a really smart guy, actually. So he has no feeling of, you know, of he has it all down and knows exactly what's going on, because I think he knows and admits and feels it to his core. He's still figuring this stuff out. And if you're still figuring it out, then you're not elite yet. I don't see how. So technically, Purdy is holding the 49ers back, but that says more about the 49ers and how great their roster is rather than how bad Brock Purdy is. But that's the way I see it. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. I know we addressed a bunch of topics on this one, whether it be the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, Brock Purdy, and the 49ers. But I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the things that we discussed right now. Let me know in the comments below. I will definitely read them. And please don't forget to subscribe. As I said, we are building an amazing community here, and I would truly love to see you part of it. And please give this video a thumbs up. It really, really helps with the visibility and helps with the algorithm, and I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.